Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7. My name is Savan Qadir. We're going to start our today's news with Ukrainian updates, as always. Day 271. Russian forces launched almost 400 strikes on Sunday in Ukraine's east as part of campaign of artillery fire. President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a Sunday night address, Russia has moved troops to reinforce position in the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk region after withdrawing from Kherson. The southern Ukrainian city of Nikopol was hit by Russian shelling overnight, according to city officials. The UN nuclear watchdog was conducting an assessment of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant today after the site was shelled more than a dozen times over the weekend. The blast damaged buildings and equipment, although none had been critical for nuclear safety and security, the International Atomic Energy Agency said. Russia also said that it would bring to justice those responsible for the alleged execution of Russian prisoners of war in Ukraine. Ukraine denies the claim, arguing its soldiers were defending themselves against Russian who feigned surrender. Germany has offered Poland the Patriot missile defense system to help it secure its airspace after a stray missile crash in the country last week. Negotiating with Russia would be capitulation Mikhail Podolyak, a key advisor to the Ukrainian presidency, has said. Russian forces are constructing defensive positions partially staffed by poorly trained, mobilized reservists around the Savoti sector in Luhansk region in northeastern Ukraine, according to the UK Ministry of Defense. A new training center for Ukrainian troops in the central Spanish city of Toledo will start operating at the end of November. The first Ukrainian supermarket has opened in Kherson since the city was liberated earlier this month. France has sent another 2 air defense systems to Ukraine, along with 2 multiple rocket launchers, according to an interview given by a French defense minister. 45 countries and institutions met in Paris today to pledge millions of euros aid for Moldova, as fears mount that it could be further destabilized by the conflict in Ukraine. Earthquake on Indonesia's main island of Java kills at least 162 people. At least 162 people have been killed after a magnitude of 5.6 earthquake struck Indonesia's main island of Java, triggering landslides and causing buildings to collapse. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake, which struck late in the afternoon, was centered in the Cianjur region of West Java province at the depth of 6.2 miles, 10 kilometers. Ridwan Kamil, the governor of West Java, said 162 people had been killed. The majority of those who had died were children, he said, adding that many were students were taking extra lessons, so many incidents occurred at several Islamic schools. Footage from Cianjur showed a school building with a collapsed roof, as well as badly damaged homes where brick walls had been torn down. A local hospital overwhelmed by a number of victims. The injured were treated outside, some lying on a mattress or blanket on the ground as they were given oxygen masks and IV drips. Jen Suharyanto, the head of the National Disaster Management Agency, said the nearby Science Hospital had no power after the quake, hampering efforts to treat victims and that more medical staff were needed. Several landslides were reported across Cianjur. Dozens of buildings were damaged, including an Islamic boarding school, a hospital, and other public facilities, as BNBP said. Information was still being collected about the extent of casualties and damage, the agency added. Rescue workers and volunteers searched for victims who were trapped or injured beneath the rubble collapsed buildings. Homes have been damaged across a wide area and access is difficult due to the cracked roads. Nurses had been sent by the Indonesian Red Cross on motorbikes to reach the injured, as 4 of the worst affected areas, about 1 hour from the main town, were otherwise inaccessible. UK ministers refused to ease immigration barriers to help skill shortages. The immigration minister, Robert Junk, has clashed with the business leader over access to overseas workers, saying companies should train UK staff to fill vacancies rather than relying on people from other countries. But the head of the Confederation of British Industry, which starts its annual conference on Monday, when it will hear from the Rishi Sunak, said the current immigration system meant there was no momentum for growth. Mr. Jenrick, who also dismissed weekend report that the government was considering a move to a more liberal Swiss-style post-Brexit relationship with the EU, told Sky News that the aim was still to reduce overall net migration. And the freedom of movement of people was one of the fundamental principles of Brexit and could not be adapted, he said. As the CBI's call for more targeted immigration to plug some workforce gap, Mr. Jenrick said, I do not agree with that. We listened to the business community, obviously, and we were aware of certain skill shortages, and we want a pragmatic, sensible relationship with businesses. Mr. Jenrick said, overall of our ambitions is to reduce net migration. We think that's what the British public want. That's one of the driving forces in the vote to leave European Union back in 2016. But speaking to Sky straight after Mr. Jenrick, Tony Duncan, the Director General of the CBI, said, where's the momentum for growth? That's why you have to look at things like immigration or planning or regulation. On immigration, he said, there should be a very simple system. What are the jobs we need to fill? Number one. Number two, have we got British workers to fill them? And number three, if you don't let's use immigration on a fixed term basis to plug the gaps until British workers are ready to do the job. Sanctioned universal claimant lost out in cost of living payment. The UK government is being criticised for blocking universal credit claimants from receiving the cost of living payment they are entitled to as a result of being subject to a benefit sanction. Natalie Dunn, MSP, has called the UK government to take urgent action to get the vital payment to the 700 claimants in Scotland who were denied the first £326 payment in September. The SNP has also demanded Westminster ensure the second payment, due to be issued between November the 23rd and the 30th, will not be withheld for anyone subject to the DWP sanction regime at the time. SNP MSP Natalie Dunn, who convenes Hollywood's Social Justice and Social Security Committee, said, it is completely immoral that people have been denied vital financial support as a direct result of cruel Westminster policies. In the middle of crippling cost of living crisis, this is nothing short of scandal, and the UK government must act urgently to get this payment to the hundreds of Scots that are entitled to them. By the Tories' own admission, this payment was introduced for people desperately struggling, but they've been denied the support because of the Tories' punitive sanction regime. Court says Shamima Begum may have been victim of child trafficking. Shamima Begum, who left Britain as a schoolgirl to join Islamic State in Syria known ISIS, was likely to have been the victim of child trafficking and sexual exploitation, a court case has heard. Lawyers acting for the 23-year-old began a new appeal on Monday against the removal of her British citizenship at the hearing of the Special Immigration Appeal Commission. They said she was lured to Syria in 2015 when she left East London as 15 years old, GCSE student, along with two school friends. Once in Syria, she married an ISIS fighter and gave birth to 3 children, all of whom died as infant. When Begum discovered in a Syria camp in 2019, the then Home Secretary Sajid Javid prevented her from returning to the UK by revoking her UK citizenship. Samantha Knight Casey, representing Begum, said on Monday that this over-hasty decision made Begum effectively an exile for life. She told the hearing this case concerned a British child aged 15 who was persuaded, influenced, and affected with her friends by a determined and effective ISIS propaganda machine. Begum's lawyer said in a written argument that the Home Office had revoked her citizenship without seeking to investigate and determine, still less consider, whether she was a victim of child trafficking. They also argued there was overwhelming evidence that Begum was recruited, transported, transferred, harbored, and received in Syria for the purpose of sexual exploitation. Begum also is challenging the removal of her citizenship on the ground that it made her de facto stateless. and that the decision was predetermined. Lawyers representing the Home Office said Begum's case was about national security rather than trafficking. James Eddie Casey, representing the government, said in written argument that Begum had aligned with ISIS and stayed in Syria for 4 years until 2019. According to the human rights group Reprieve, there are up to 25 British families, including 36 children, still in camps in a Kurdish-controlled northeast Syria, where suspected relatives of ISIS have been held. A book published earlier this year by a journalist, Richard Kerbich, alleged that Begum and her friends were taken into Syria by a Syrian man who was leaking information to the Canadian security services. Mohammed al-Rashid is alleged to have been in charge of the Turkish side of an extensive ISIS people smuggling network. Colorado spring shooting Mayo say attack has been trampling of a hate crime. The mayor of Colorado Springs has said that a gun attack on LGBTQ nightclub in his city that left 5 dead and at least 25 injured was trappings of a hate crime. John Stothers spoke on Monday on the tragic darkness that the descendant on the community as detective continue piecing together a motive for the murder, and the resident honored those who lost their life. The action of this single individual, whatever his motivation, don't reflect the city of Colorado Springs. Stothers told ABC's Good Morning America it has the trappings of the hate crime of a hate crime, but we are going to have to see what the investigation shows in terms of social media and things like that to make a clear determination exactly what the motive was. Authorities arrested 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich for the Saturday night rampage of Club Q, which was ended when the suspect was confronted by Club Gore, described by another witness as a hero. Another patron helped to subdue the gunman, who was reported to be wearing full body armor until police arrived. LT Pamela Castro, spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Police Department, said the first 911 call was received at 11:56 p.m. Saturday, and officers were on the scene within 4 minutes. The suspect was detained at 2 minutes past midnight, she said, and 2 weapons, including AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle, were recovered. Suspects also praised the club's patron for halting the gunman and preventing greater loss of life. Prosecutors are weighing what charges to bring against Aldrich, and initial court hearing is expected as early as today. Phil Weiser, the Colorado Attorney General, told CNN on Monday that it was hard to imagine the gunman was not driven by hate. FBI agents are assisting local authority in the investigation into how the gunman acquired the weapon used in the attack and why he chose the particular club. Hundreds of patients received earlier referral due to rapid cancer diagnostic services. More than 12% of patients cared by one of the Scotland 3 rapid cancer diagnostic service received an early cancer diagnosis, with a further 33.8% receiving a diagnosis of non-cancerous health issue. An evaluation report is found. Interim findings of the independent report shows that the pilot service in NHS Ayrshire and Arran, NHS Dumfries and Galloway, and NHS Fife are providing a clinically safe and effective rapid service to rule out or rule in cancer for patients who have non-specific symptoms such as weight loss, fatigue, and nausea. The service allows people to get tested and the result more quickly than previously. The University of Strathclyde report was commissioned by the Centre for Sustainable Delivery at NHS Golden Jubilee to look at the first year of the services. Across 3 services, 962 patients were seen up to October 2022. 12.1% of patients received a cancer diagnosis, 33.8% received diagnosis of non-cancerous specific health issue, 54% received no diagnosis and were provided reassurance, with the majority redirected to primary care. 14 days average from RCD's referral to RCD's outcome. For those diagnosed with cancer, 61.7 days average from RCD as referral to the first treatment. The report also reflects on the experience of patients and primary care clinicians that have used a rapid cancer diagnosis service. High patient certification rating were given about 96% of patients and the same proportion failed diagnostic tests were carried out quickly. Health Secretary Hamza Yusuf speaking during a visit to the Rapid Cancer Diagnostic Service in NHS 5, winner of the Innovation Award of the Scottish Health Award 2022, welcomed the finding, and also goes on and say the report demonstrates that the patient valued the speed of referral and diagnosis, as well as the personalised support provided through NHS Scotland First Rapid Cancer Diagnosis Services. Hamza Yusuf also said providing primary care with the new referral routes mean this group of patients are able to understand the cause of their symptoms and rule cancer in or out more quickly. We're looking forward to the next two new RCDs opening in NHS Borders and NHS Lancashire that will build the learning included in today's report. New family drugs treatment service. Parents with problematic drug or alcohol use can use inter-residential or rehabilitation without the fear of being separated from their children. Harper House in South Coast, North Ayrshire, which is being run by the Phonics Futures charity, which was awarded over 8 million in Scottish Government grant funding last year to establish a family rehabilitation service accepting referral from across Scotland. The facility can support up to 20 families at any one time for placement between 3 and 6 months long, meaning up to 80 families will be supported annually. The service is designed to make it easier for parents to access treatment by allowing mothers or fathers to take care of their family while in recovery with the help of the centre staff who support child development, parenting skill and overall health and well-being of all family members. At the official opening, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said, "We are determined to make it easier for people with problem drug or alcohol use to access treatment. So I'm pleased to open this facility, offering families the chance to stay together while parents receive specialist support in a safe and structured environment." Although men are more likely to use and experience harm from drug, there has been disproportionate increase in drug-related death among women, and there is a strong link between women having children removed from the care and risk of drug-related death. Harper House is funded through the Residential Rehabilitation Rapid Capacity Programme and will contribute toward the Scottish Government's aim to treble the number of publicly funded residential rehabilitation placement to 1,000 by 2026. Scottish Government call for European research funding to be protected. An innovative Scottish project may be threatened in the future if the UK government fails to continue funding European research collaboration, Employment Minister Richard Lockhead has warned. Mr. Lockhead concerns are for the future of European territorial cooperation. Grants which have been worth more than 72.5 million to Scottish projects since 2014. Project previously supported by the grant include a joint scheme between the University of Stirling, NHS Highland and NHS Western Isles to use video technology to help dementia patients stay at home rather than go into residential care, and project developing tools powered by zero-emission hydrogen. He also said he also written to Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove calling for UK investment in ETC programs, which are due to end in 2023 to continue for further 4 years. The lead partner in the High Atlantic project developing hydrogen power tools is based in Shetland. The project's work is expected to develop innovative technology, including a new reactor for hydrogen production and a hydrogen combustion engine. Well, that's it for this evening, and thank you very much. And before I go, I just want to remind you that Broadcasting Scotland, we depend on the generosity of our supporters and our subscribers. So to everyone who has donated and to everyone who has signed and to make a regular monthly payment, thank you very much. And our program will always be free to view. However, if you can afford £5 a month, please consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. And we have set ourselves a target of adding 10,000 new subscribers to enable us to employ staff to make our programs. Your full Scottish this Sunday will be hosted. Thank you very much.